Welcome back. We are continuing our Learning Style series. This series will begin with an exploration of the three basic learning styles: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. While other learning styles exist, they often expand upon or complement one of these. No worries, we will explore the other styles as well. We will begin with auditory learners. Let's take a look at an overview of this learning style. All right, let's jump right into our learning style series, Understanding Auditory Learners. So we're going to have an overview and a purpose, look at some key traits and characteristics, look at strategies and benefits, and then close out with our keys to remember. So what are auditory learners? That means they learn best by hearing information. Lectures, discussion, storytelling is their preferred means of communication. They benefit from podcasts, audiobooks, and verbal explanations. And remember hearing information and explaining it. So they remember information better by hearing it and explaining it. So this may be the person that, talks to themselves because they're explaining the concept. They may, like we said, listen to podcasts, audiobooks. The auditory, hearing, and speaking are their best means of communication and learning. So with that being said, why does that matter? Because when you address their specific learning style, it increases their engagement. They have a better connection because they're remembering more. It improves their comprehension, again, strengthens their memory, supports differentiated instruction, obviously, and promotes equitable learning. So we're not just presenting it in text form and it eliminates the auditory learner and they feel disenfranchised or ostracized. No, by addressing and incorporating their learning style within the lesson, you promote equitable learning. So some of the characteristics, these students typically enjoy discussion, prefer listening over reading, so they may want to have a conversation about the topic, not necessarily read the text. They remember conversations, especially with the little ones. These are the ones that are like, oh no, but you said such, and you don't even remember the conversation. They remember word for word. They like read aloud. So if they do have to read, maybe they are the ones that you allow to read the passage to the students in the class as, the orator for the class. They love questions, and oftentimes they enjoy music and rhythm because it appeals to their learning style. So what are some specific teaching considerations? Give clear verbal instructions and directions, okay? You want to make sure your directions are clear. There's no confusion, because as we mentioned in the previous slide, that auditory kid is going to remember exactly what you said, right? So you allow for discussions as well, pair audio with visuals, minimize distracting noise because they're using their auditory sense. So any other noises in the background could detract from that. And then you balance instructional methods, and we're going to talk about this later on. So what are some instructional strategies you can use for auditory learners? Interactive lectures, think, pair, share, read alouds, peer teaching, presentation, podcasts, and audiobooks, okay? So these elements allow for that auditory learner to utilize their strength in order to comprehend the material better. So some classroom activities, you can have debates. They'll go back and forth. You can have oral reports. It gives them the chance to, as we talked about earlier, lean on their strengths as far as presenting information. You can have choral readings, vocabulary chants, listening centers, and student podcasts. Any one of these or any combination of these can be beneficial to addressing the auditory learning student. So what are some tech tools? Text-to-speech. This is a great one for your auditory learners, allowing them to, instead of having to write everything down, put a text-to-speech in front of them and just let them go. Speech to text as well. Voice recording apps, educational podcasts, and digital storytelling. You don't have to use these in conjunction. You can use them periodically. You can use them as support. You can use them as reinforcement or enhancement. But just having something in the toolbox, excuse the pun, something in the toolbox that you can pull out to address your auditory learners, as far as technology is concerned, is always beneficial. So what are the student benefits when a teacher understands how to approach and how to service auditory learners? Students have better listening, improved memory, greater participation, stronger communication, and higher confidence. You recognize my strength, you incorporate my strength, and I retain more. For the teacher, you get more participation, better formative assessments because you've utilized their strengths in order to make sure they comprehend the information. You have stronger relationships and easier differentiation. For the school as a whole, definitely have higher engagement, inclusive instruction, better school culture because everybody feels like their learning style is addressed, and you have improved achievement because that auditory learner now is retaining and comprehending more information because the teacher has adjusted their lesson to fit their learning style as well. So we talked about balancing learning instructional approaches. So you want to blend auditory, visual, reading and writing, and kinesthetic methods for best impact, okay? We're not saying your whole lesson is auditory. We're not saying when we get into the other learning styles that your whole lesson is visual or kinesthetic. You want to mix and match so that every student, they're going to fall in one of these or multiple categories. So if you're blending, if you're combining auditory, visual, and kinesthetic within your lesson plans on a regular basis, everybody gets addressed. And I'll give you a little caveat. When IEPs, when I first started teaching, IEPs became a big thing. Like it was a big push for IEPs. And I started looking at some of the strategies to address different students who had IEPs. And I looked at the list of strategies to address their specific needs. And I realized, hey, you know what? If I incorporate some of these strategies specifically for the IEP, a lot of my non-IEP students are going to benefit. And so what I started doing was incorporating some of the extended time, some of the chunking, and I started incorporating all of these, learning disability strategies into my regular lesson, and my quote unquote regular students were benefiting from these additional strategies and accommodations as well. So combining the learning styles is the key. It's not just addressing one specific style, but it's making sure that each one of the styles and student preferences is represented. So some grade level examples. Again, we can always mix and match depending on your population, but elementary, you can use songs and stories, middle school, discussions and podcasts, and for high school, seminars and presentations. So let's look at some common mistakes. Only lecturing, okay? So if direct instruction is 90% of your instruction, a lot of your auditory and non-auditory students may zone out, right? Only written direction, so only going with one approach is a common mistake. Too much noise going on in the background, and assuming listening equals understanding. Okay, just because they're listening doesn't mean they're understanding. Give them a chance to, reiterate your key points verbally rather than written. If we're talking about auditory learners, let them come back to you and give you a summation of what was just presented. So some keys to remember: hearing and discussing improve learning, differentiate your instruction, encourage students to explain their thinking, and listening is an active skill. So when we talk about the auditory learner, this synopsis, this overview that we just went through are some key points that you can begin implementing in order to support them in the classroom. Thank you. We hope that was helpful. Remember, acknowledging a student's learning style helps with structuring more purposeful instruction. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time. We hope that